holidays. Happy New Year. Laura and I are, as soon as I figure out how, are toasting. Dink. Grab your glass of beer or wine and join us. If we're drunk by the end, that's okay.
I mean, nothing says 2020 more than day drinking. So
this is true. This is true. This is our end of the year broadcast. We are happy to see you. We started out our podcast this year. That's one of the best things that's happened this year for me personally. We started it out with no guests, just the two of us talking to you with your comments. Hope you join the conversation. And so we thought we'd end the year this way, and talk about how things have changed and how we hope they may change for the better next year. Join us.
Yes, please join us in comments. We can see them. We can talk about them. So we want to hear from you while we're chatting. So we'll probably be here, I don't know, 20, 30, 40 minutes, however long it takes for us to drink these drinks and chat amongst ourselves.
Okay, well, first, Laura, share. I've got just plain old cheap Pinot Grigio. And Laura's got an amazing thing.
You know that I love me some craft beer, so.
That's her last minute. Did someone give it to you or did you buy it?
I bought it for myself. It's my last minute gift idea for me.
Here. I like that idea. Okay, so let's start from Hey, Faye, how are you?
Hey.
Let's start from a place of positivity. Laura, what was the best thing about 2020 for you in your personal life?
We briefly talked about this before the show, so I'm glad you gave me a heads up that I would be talking about this. It's 2020, right? So it's hard. It's been hard to figure out what it was, but I think ultimately for me, it's about. I think we learned to be more and stay more connected, even when we couldn't. So I've connected, just like starting this podcast. I've connected with you. We've talked a lot more in the last year than we had a couple of years prior, since the last summit, really. I talked to friends all over the country. I actually talked to my mom and my sister more this year than I did in years past. So I'm just grateful that even though it was kind of a crisis that threw us into that we took the opportunity for what it was and stayed connected and used modern technology to be connected.
I think that's a really good point. I like that one. I would steal it. But I think what I'm going to do is make it my number 2, because whether folks like it or not, for me, the best thing personally that happened this year, besides my health, is that the election in the United States turned out the way it is, because I needed that. That's all I'm going to say about that. I'm just going to say I'm quite happy, and I'll probably have a glass of wine again on January 20th, which is our inauguration day.
Indeed. I am also very, very happy with the outcome. So
for the NotMom, I've already said what was the best thing of the year. Laura came up out of the damn blue with the idea of doing a video podcast. And bless her little pointed head, she knew how to do it, because I didn't. And I love doing this. I love that we get the comments. We've already got Faye with her Chardonnay. Anybody else joining us with or without alcohol, please let us know. But I just like the podcast. I like that it feels even more connected. I'm always surprised when we get comments on our YouTube channel, where these podcasts wind up going and living forever. And, conversations we've had, months ago, and people are seeing it for the first time and enjoying it and leaving messages. So that makes me really good. And the guests that we've had on have let us know that, they really enjoyed it and they still enjoy it. So that's it for me.
Absolutely. And hey, Faye is chiming in. Thank you, Faye, for participating. We love you. You're one of our favorite friends of the show. And
I am
you got to visit your friend.
I am the fabulous friend that she visited. Thank you.
You are right here.
I am.
Awesome.
the other, well, I guess our next thing was just going to be talking about all the stuff we've learned. Laura just pointed out a really good one, that we learned how to stay in touch when we can't touch. And that's a really amazing thing. I have seen people, on my block doing things like hugging with sticks. They both, people are standing on the sidewalk and they each have a stick and they sort of touch the sticks, and it just cracks me. It cracks me up. Or they let their dogs touch because they can't touch, and it's just a lot of creativity. But one of the things I had been wanting to, for years, I've been sort of going back and forth on letting my hair go natural. And there was no better time than the pandemic, because even though my hairdresser is also my very good friend, I just kept seeing her breathing on me while she washed my hair. And I thought, okay, no. So this is my result. I am 10 months since I last had paid somebody money for chemicals on my hair. And as I was saying before this started, if I keep working at it and keeping it healthy, it's probably the healthiest it's been. Maybe I can get a little Chaka Khan thing going on. And I'll share with you what I said to Laura, which is the only way to truly be Chaka Khan is to get bigger titties, which could happen if I keep eating all the COVID carbs that I've been eating. We have bought stuff we hadn't bought in years, like Chex Mix and pretzel sticks. And we weren't snackers before, but we're snacking crazy now.
Oh, yeah.
Are you keeping the weight off and working out? I have friends who still work out every day, and I was a gym rat, but I'm not doing it.
No, I do not like exercising in the best of times. It's not my favorite thing. And right before the pandemic, actually starting about August the year before, I started exercising every like a few times a week. We'd go down to the gym in our building and we'd go out for long walks and, exercising. I was watching my calories. I was doing all those things just in an effort to be healthier. And then the pandemic hit, and then we couldn't go to the gym anymore. And then I'm just like, screw this. I'm just going to eat snacks because I'm not going anywhere. So I stopped. Eventually I will pick it back up again. That is the hope. Eventually we are going to talk about our hopes for 2021, and that's one of mine.
Me too. You made me realize that one of the other really good things so far, we still have some days left in 2020, but so far I have to say, I don't personally know anyone who has died. I do know a couple people who have had COVID, and they've had a rough recovery, but they did indeed recover. But I don't personally know anyone who has died, and that's a blessing for my friends and for me, because it's scary out there.
Yeah, I'm also grateful for that. I have not had that.
I need to go to the dentist. I'm scared of her breathing on me too, and I love my dentist. But the last time I didn't go to the dentist, it made me have a seizure, and I wound up in the hospital, and I don't want to wind up in the hospital right now.
No, I guess in that case it's weighing the options. Is the dentist they wear a mask and a shield versus the hospital? I think you take your chances with the mask and the shield.
Well, yeah, I was in the hospital in February 2020, and for a day I did have a ventilator, and wow. I got out just as COVID was coming to the United States, big time. And all I kept thinking was, would they even have a ventilator for me? Forget about, the fact that the person, people near me would have COVID. So we actually joked about it with the nurse back in February. She said, every day she'd come in my room and say, do you know why you're here? And then one day I said, oh, I have COVID. Because at that time, COVID was only in Italy, really, Italy and China. So we both thought that was the funniest thing ever. My patient said she had COVID. And then within the blink of an eye, of course, it wasn't that damn funny. So
that is fair.
I wish good health to everyone who's listening and watching. So what have we learned? We have learned through health and quarantine, on that topic alone, we've learned you know, I feel like there's pre-COVID in the world and then there's post-COVID. And pre-COVID, we knew things like you were saying, Laura. We know exercise is good. We know dark green leafy vegetables are good. We know drinking lots of water are good. It never necessarily occurred to us to wash our hands a lot. And it certainly never occurred to us. I think most of us, almost everyone, was aware that countries like Japan have worn masks for years. I mean, everybody wears a mask. But that's such a densely populated place that we thought, that's their thing. And so now this whole idea that we really are responsible for our good health is really new to a lot of people, I think. So
and to be responsible, or at least to show compassion for the health of others. You know, that it's not just about us and making sure that we're okay. It's about making sure our neighbors and our friends and our family are all okay too.
Yeah, I think America was just beginning to get into that mode as the conversation about children's immunizations caught on. And, you know, kids were catching measles because it only took one kid in the class who wasn't vaccinated to give the disease to everyone else. But that still was such a narrow focus. And certainly for our NotMom audience, we didn't know any little kids. So not really. I mean, you know, cousins and nieces and things. But now it's everybody. And, you know, even my pizza guy, like if I go to the door and I don't have my mask on, he waits for me to go put one on before he'll give me my damn pizza. I cuss a lot. Sorry, ladies.
I can say okay.
I'm so sorry. So life and work. We have learned about Zoom, man. I don't know how you get stock in Zoom, but the thing I laugh at is I remember when Skype was new, and I thought that was just the best thing ever, you know, because you could talk and see people around the world. And yet I don't hear people talk about Skype every once in a while on television. I'll see the little Skype logo on the screen, but Zoom is cleaning up. So I'm very glad that I already knew how to, because of the NotMom, I had already had many Zoom conversations.
Right, absolutely. And then I learned in the same vein, right? This is how we started this whole, you know, video podcast anyway. I learned about this platform that we're using, StreamYard. No ad. I'm just really like it. And I started using it. A friend of mine and I have a comedy podcast that we do once a week.
Go ahead, do it.
It's a ridiculous podcast. Nobody wants to listen to it. If you do, I don't know, visit my Facebook page, you'll find it. But that's when I emailed you and I said, hey, I'm learning this new platform. It seems like a really cool platform for video, you know, live streaming events, live streaming conversations. And then the NotMom conversation was born. So.
Yep. I have learned, I always thought I was a pretty empathetic-y person, but the news stories about people being evicted and, you know, where do you go? Even if there weren't a pandemic, where the hell do you go? And because my household has not been truly fully employed since last September 2019, I have learned a bunch of things that I'm really enjoying. And you may laugh at my prioritization, Laura, but I got to tell you, I learned that I used to be a brand name snob. I would not buy, you know, store brand paper towels. I wouldn't buy store brand anything. Now I'm buying like even plastic trash bags at Walgreens. I use Walgreens and CVS as my 7-Eleven. I buy all kinds of things and they're just good. I mean, it's like, so I was talking to a girlfriend the other night about it. And she said, you know, under that long category of how the world will never go back to being exactly as it was, once women shoppers have learned things like, wow, I can just get Giant Eagle brand and I'm just fine. We're not going to go back to the brand names when the world is, you know, perfect again. So there's just, you know, that just cracks me up. I don't think people have begun to think about that yet. In my city, in Cleveland, it's obvious that business owners who were paying major rent for office space have figured out my employees and my company are doing just fine with everybody working at home. I don't need to pay $800 a month or more, for an office.
Right?
So what is that going to do to our cities? Are we just going to have a bunch of empty buildings? Are we going to, I don't know. But it's just, I just feel like, television tends to recycle the same old things over and over. And my husband and I come up with all these things that we know are going to change. They have to change. And we feel like we're the only ones talking about it. Has the rest of the world figured this out?
No, I hear you. I completely hear you with that. I've been having some of the same conversations, because I do think that this will impact our cities and our businesses and, how we do things moving forward. But I think it might take some time for people to catch up with that because everyone's still looking for, quote unquote normal, and they want it to go back to normal. But I think that ship has sailed. I don't think there is a back to normal now.
If I show you my nails today, it doesn't back up this point. But the point is that I have learned during the quarantine that I've been wasting $25 a month on manicures. They may not be perfect now, but they're pretty damn good. Thank you very much. And so I don't think I'll, unless I'm like going to a wedding or some kind of amazing party, I can't imagine paying for a true manicure ever again. A pedicure, yes, because my fat won't let me reach my toes. So I mean, I can reach them, but I don't do a good job. So I definitely will do that. And not mom wise, what I think both you and I learned, Laura, is that there's a challenge, at least in America, but I got a feeling it's happening in other countries, particularly maybe the UK, where one side of the political spectrum feels like it's pushing away women who don't have children by choice or by chance. Where, because in America at least, one party tends to be the party of strict policies against reproductive health freedoms for women. That if a woman who is a not mom says, I'm a member of the Republican Party, she instantly gets a lot of hate. She gets a lot of trolling and she's shunned away. And it's not personal. It's because the other women tend to feel like your party is doing X, Y, and Z, and you must support it. So therefore, I don't like you. And I don't know necessarily what to do about that. The Not Mom's always been about inclusivity and trying to get people together. But as the America and the rest of the world continues to be so politically divided, I don't necessarily know how to get around that. Because I think it's way too easy, especially these days and online, for people to, for lack of a better word, attack each other because of a policy that if you vote for this person or this party, therefore I've decided you agree with everything they do. And that may not be the case.
Yeah, no, I think that's absolutely fair. And as you and I know from our experience, we put on 2 in-person summits, and we know that when we bring these women together, women of multiple political views, multiple cultural backgrounds, by choice women, by chance women, they really do learn how to communicate face to face. And I mean, we were told on paper that it wasn't going to work if we brought, by choice and by chance not moms together. And not only did it work, it was a huge success. So the problem is now none of us can be around each other. We can't have an in-person summit, or we can't have face-to-face conversations. So all we're doing right now is communicating on social media, which is about the worst place you can have a conversation, because that's where people get to be trolls. That's why people you can tap out something really fast and I'm going to be angry, and then let it go, and then it's in the ether and it's there forever. And you might not have meant to be mean, but you might have been.
Well, I remember, my first thought is, of course, the political environment in the United States and around the world was greatly different in 2017 when we had our last summit. But the other thing I remember from that last summit was there was a woman on day one. Our lunchtime keynote speaker was a child-free by choice woman, and this particular audience member was childless, not by choice, and still grieving the fact that she would never have a child. And she stood up and made a comment and was very angry at us, saying, if I had known it was going to be all, for child-free women. Well, the truth of it was, and she had the information, she just hadn't seen it. We balanced it so that a 2-day summit, one day the keynote was child-free and the next day the keynote was childless. So, your day, if you will, is tomorrow at lunchtime. But meanwhile, we've got all these breakout sessions that balance everything out. And she just hadn't figured that out yet. But I think about that now I don't think anybody gave a damn about politics and who you voted for or who back then. And I frankly don't know if that would change. And I say that because what we learned was that, and what I'm still learning, which makes me feel good, is that the women were so grateful to be in a space that was theirs, that I don't know if even now politics would divide that. Because under the category of things I've learned about the NotMom in 2020, we're still getting people who just are discovering the NotMom and being happy to discover a place where there's no mean girl language, and being happy to find a place where it's not all, that it's much more huggy, for lack of a better word, and we try to understand or at least acknowledge the things that can hurt each of us or make each of us happy. And I still love the idea that the NotMom, unlike so many sites I see online, is American in focus but global in scope. It's interesting to me and clearly to our audience to learn about, how are women without children treated in South Korea or, or Ghana or wherever. And that makes us different. And I think it's because we acknowledge that there's more, it's corny, but we have more in common than we do in different.
Yeah,
that's right.
That's
right. I know. Faye must have known I was getting ready to say that. All right, y'all. I know you're out there watching us. Don't let Faye be the only one giving us a comment.
Yeah, I see you watching us. If you don't think I know you're there, I know you're there. I can see you're there. I am in charge. I am producing this. I can see you out there watching us. So join in the conversation. We would love to know what you're drinking. We would love you to tell us what you learned about 2020, and we're going to get into more because we've got some more topics too.
We also learned, okay, this is bad, but remember the guy, Jeffrey Tobin, who was a famous writer for The New Yorker, and he got busted because in a Zoom meeting he was playing with his willy.
Yeah.
We learned that women may masturbate, but we don't have to do it in the middle of the damn day while we're on a Zoom call. I'm just saying. So I think that was something good to learn.
That literally never occurred to me. I didn't even know I just didn't know that was an option. I'm not that I'm going to start doing it. My hands are up here, but I just never thought of it.
Well, I shouldn't have brought it up. Male or female, at a certain point, how do you keep your face for the camera while you're getting to the good part? I mean, I don't know how that works. So we have definitely learned. Forgive my phone. I'm getting
this is
scammered.
Also what happens when we day drink and have a podcast. This is the kind of conversations we have.
Yes. For those, even though I am childless by chance, I live and I mention this damn near all the time, but I live next door to a woman who is now locked in the house with a college freshman who had to come home, a middle schooler, and 2 7-year-old twins, boys. And she herself is a teacher. So she spends her days on the computer teaching children. She's an elementary school teacher. And then the boys are in one computer studying their, schoolwork. The college kid is somewhere. And I'm like, oh my God, it's just me and my husband and my cat. And God, that's a blessing in itself. And what that also showed me is the flip side. We have heard from so many not moms out there who are living totally alone. It's not just about a partner, a love partner, male or female, but they don't even have a fish, And I when I was single, I always had a cat. I can't imagine the minute I got away from my mother, who was anti-pet, I've always had at least a cat. And hopefully before I die, I will have a dog, doggone it. But I think of those women a lot, I think of just people in general. Certainly, again, on television, they only talk about the elderly, the loneliness and the abandonment and and I keep thinking there are people in their 20s who are damn lonely right now. And so from the not mom aspect, even though we haven't, at least I haven't, Laura, maybe you've heard, but I haven't heard from a lot of younger women who are concerned because they do want to have children. And right now, for almost an entire calendar year, you can barely date. You may meet somebody on Match.com, but, and if you do date, and if you do get married or not, who wants to go to a hospital and deliver a baby in the middle of a pandemic?
Although that hasn't stopped people.
Well, no.
There's been plenty of babies born.
There's a woman on my street who had a baby several months ago, and she was saying what she hadn't realized. Okay, they make it out the hospital, no COVID, yay, right here. But then she'd forgotten, okay, you got to take that infant to the pediatrician like every 6 weeks for the first few months. So, she was literally looking for an itty bitty, she finally made an itty bitty mask for the baby. But if I'm worried about myself, I can't imagine worrying about, I just can't. I feel for parents. I always have, because I'm by chance, I'm sure there's child-free folks who give a darn, but I can't imagine being a parent, especially of a young child right now. Not just because you're trapped in the house with all that energy and nowhere to put it, but because you just worried. And the government saying, oh, kids can't get it is bullshit. Oops, sorry.
You can say bullshit here. Nobody minds.
Okay. I didn't mean to say a bad word. But the flip side,
I think it's fine. They won't censor us.
The flip side is I have seen many news stories about the increase in people adopting pets, probably for the reason we just said. I got at least 3 people with puppies on our street who have just figured out that now that it's snowing, you still got to go outside. Hence, I get cats.
Right.
But yeah, to me, an animal.
Cat.
Yes.
This is not my real cat.
I hope not.
This is my.
Oh.
Well, that's not. Well.
Yeah, see, if that were your real cat, you probably wouldn't be doing this podcast with me, because you'd be rich, being the owner of Grumpy Cat.
That is very true. Although I will say, so one of the other things I learned in 2020 was how to make an Instagram page for my cat. So you can follow my cat on Instagram if you want to. She has a lot of followers.
Can I give you all the secret information? Because I'm telling you, I never think about the Not Mom Instagram account. We have one, but I always feel like the things I want to take pictures of and talk about have nothing to do with not having kids, and people will think I've lost my mind. So I don't do anything at all, and it's a dead site kind of, which is bad. Very bad.
It's a learning curve. I know a lot of people have been Instagram masters for years, but I only just got into it, and now I've got 3 separate Instagram accounts. So
okay, one for you, one for the cat, and who's the third one?
And one for my aforementioned comedy podcast, Bill Has Opinions. You can find them on Instagram at Bill Has Opinions.
There's a lot of us old feminist broads in the Not Mom community, and if it was Laura had opinions, maybe I'd watch more.
No, it's an inside joke because our friend Bill legit has opinions. Like, he can't stop, no matter where we are. Like, his wife he would say something, just go off on a rant, and she would look over and say, Bill has opinions. So it became a joke, and then we decided to make a show around it. So it's funny.
All right, let's go back to positivity if we can't come up with anything negative. Do we have hope for what are, I should say positively, what are our hopes for 2021? And I'll start out by saying I feel hopeful that people have hope. I think the vaccine, of course, is part of that, even though it won't get to me till God knows when, 4th of July. But
it'll happen.
There's gotta, you always gotta have hope, or you might as well just kill yourself today. I think of the idea that I hope that the people who have become more aware of other races and their experiences, and I'm not talking just black and white. My point really is, once anyone crosses a line just a little bit, then it's so much easier to cross it again and again and again. So if George Floyd's murder helped you realize, well, damn, the black folks were telling the truth all the time. They're getting murdered like, hotcakes, as Chappelle would say. Maybe it will also help you see what's happening with Muslim Americans. We have made friendships with 3 sisters and brothers, 2 sisters, 1 brother from Peru this year, who are college students, graduate students here in the Northeast Ohio area. And so, I mean, just the fact that when the 3 of them, and they are, sisters and brothers, when they are together, they speak a language that is not English. And they get, bottles thrown at their car, or, people passing them on the sidewalk just say, go back to where you came from, and it's to the point where they all are thinking of going back to Peru, where COVID is raging. Of course, it's raging here. And that upsets me, well, obviously it upsets me, but it makes me think, okay, I know, there are people rather proud of themselves, patting their back, saying, you know what, ever since George Floyd's murder, I've been reading how to be an anti-racist, and they still hear someone speak Spanish on the sidewalk and decide they don't belong to be in America, which is crazy. I figured out, I would love to know what you think about this, but my mother-in-law, who loved me dearly and I loved her, who was a little old white lady, used to tell me that she felt guilty, but she was very upset that Spanish seemed to be encroaching into America, that you go to the bank and it would say, if you speak Spanish, press 2. And she'd be like, it didn't, because she was older than me, she was in her 80s. And she'd say, it didn't used to be like that. People would come to America and they'd learn English and there wouldn't be all. And what I finally realized way after she died is that Spanish is different. If you came to America from Germany, there really was only like 1 or 2 countries that spoke German. But Spanish
Right.
is so, it's not truly universal, but it's double digits the number of countries that can speak, that is its primary language. So to say that about, and it's a false comparison to say that, well, the Italians learned English. Well, yeah, because they couldn't speak it with anybody from any other country. If I come from Spain, I can talk to the people in Mexico. It's not going to sound exactly alike, but we're going to understand each other.
Right. Exactly.
And I don't think people think enough about those things, about the why, I guess, is, they how I am, Laura. I'm a journalism major. When it comes to assumptions, my head blows purple smoke. So I feel like people assume, oh, you're just speaking that language because you don't want to learn English. No, that's not really why.
Right.
And maybe if you asked me, you'd find out. And so I compare that to the NotMom. I mean, it's like when people tell us over and over again how they run into someone, their boss, their coworker, assumes you don't have children because you don't like children. Well, no, that's not the reason. Why don't you ask? Asking is rude, and yet, wouldn't most of us rather be asked than have you make a false assumption and go running around the halls of the workplace telling everybody your wrong assumption?
Right, exactly. Or at least, ask the question, but know how to do it graciously. Do you have children? Well, no is a complete answer. So you don't have to cry. You don't have to ask me all of the questions. Just accept that that is my answer. And whatever, we can have a deeper conversation when we get to know each other.
Well, I agree with you certainly that no is a complete answer, but I also know humanity. And if you act like, okay, that's all you're going to give me, I'm going to make an assumption to fill in that hole. And the worst part is I'm going to go 6 offices down and say, I think she doesn't like kids. Well, and then suddenly that becomes the truth. So,
True.
So the challenge for each of us always is how much, do we just give no, or do we, yay, hi, Linda. But yeah, it would be nice if no were a complete answer. It would be nice. A lot of things would be nice. It would be nice if you hadn't had to watch somebody get a knee on their neck for 8 minutes to believe that Black folks were treated differently in many situations with police. It would, we could go down the list of, it would be nice. So maybe that's my big hope for that. That's circling all the way back. That sort of is my big hope, is that some of the things we have learned in 2020 for the good, we will expand to continue down that path of goodness and openness to other people. And that includes parents, for that matter.
Yeah.
Except the obnoxious ones.
Yeah. Well, there's always that, right? Like, yeah. But only when that impacts my ability to be left alone or experience pleasure or joy. So, but I still have sympathy for parents. Just because they might annoy me when I'm at the brewery and they're letting their kids run crazy, but I still have sympathy for them. I just wish they would stop.
I think a lot about, my parents are both dead. My grandparents are dead. There's, basically just me and Andy and his brother and my elderly aunt in a nursing home. But I think a lot about how parents, I'll just speak for my parents. My parents wanted me to have a better life than they did. And I am, blessedly. But I find myself thinking a lot, like, if my mother were alive, forget what a horror she'd be through the pandemic. Oh my God.
Yeah.
It never occurred to them that we would be living through something like this, and the thing that cheers me up in a weird way is I think about people during World War II, and they got through it, stiff upper lip and all that. And I believe we will too. And so I what I think it has done for
Yeah,
at least,
I mean, that's exactly right. I mean, one way or the other, life finds a way.
well, that's a very Jeff Goldblum kind of thing to say. Jurassic Park. But what I was going to say is, I think of the parents. I think of my friend who lives next door with the 7-year-old twins, and she thinks, of what they're going through now with the pandemic and everything. But what this has made her realize, which I don't think parents really thought about, is, oh my God, what could be worse that they will experience in their lifetime? Our parents only thought about, wow, they're going to go to the moon and she's going to, she's going to see people living on Mars. It's going to be great. And they never really crossed their minds, I don't think, especially for me. I'm in my 60s, and I can clearly remember being a kindergartner and getting my polio vaccine, which, for those of you who don't know, is the disease that caused President Franklin Delano Roosevelt to not be able to walk. And you get it when you're a kid, and then you're messed up. And so when they came up with that vaccine for polio, parents were like thrilled, and they're like, this is it, boy, your life's going to be great. And I think that this whole pandemic thing has shown parents, okay, you may get a vaccine for this, but nobody's promising there won't be another pandemic in 2 years or 2 months with a totally different disease. And that is a lot of stress nobody needs. But I'm an only child, so I don't have to worry about a sister or brother. You have sisters and brothers, don't you? No?
I have one sister and one brother, and
yeah, I was right. So what are your hopes for 2021? Besides the Detroit Lions playing a good game.
It would be great if the Detroit Lions could do well. They're not going to, but that would be great. But I've had a lot of faith in my life. Yeah. But for me personally, 2021 is going to be a huge year of change. Pandemic be damned, because my husband Matt is graduating from law school in May. And we are moving, yay! And we are moving back to Asheville. We've been living in Atlanta for the last 2.5. We will be 3 years by the end. But Atlanta was never home. I mean, we lived here before, but we're really, really, really excited about moving home. And our renters actually have already given us their notice. They bought a house, so we'll actually be able to start moving back even before the end of law school, so we can start getting things ready and do some painting and all that fun stuff. So, I am very hopeful for, a solid end to this pandemic and just a literal end of 2020, because it was kind of a shit show. But that I'm also just really excited to be able to go home, and that'll happen either way. Like, whatever happens with anything else, I can still go home.
I can't wait. Every time you talk about Matt's graduation, I keep imagining, because all I know from lawyers is television. So I keep imagining you being some, like some gussied up partners party. You'll be the blonde in the devil's advocate or something. I don't know. But
probably not, but that's okay. You can keep up. You can keep that image in your head. I don't mind.
Well, I can't see Matt as Tom Cruise or Pacino, but either way, it'll be fun knowing Laura, the NotMom lawyer's wife. That'll be interesting. I don't know. I really don't go to. I mean, these days I'm doing the AA. Not that I'm not drinking when I say this, but I'm doing the AA thing of I'm just taking it a day at a time, because I can't. There's so many ways I can't imagine. I mean, it's not that I don't have hope and positivity for 2021, but I'm enough of a cynic that I know that on New Year's everyone's going to go, "Yay, 2020 is gone," And a little voice says to me, didn't nobody promise you 21 won't be worse? You know, and I can't help it. I can't shake it. I can't shake that feeling. But mostly I just can't, even on a positive side, I can't think other than my husband and I finding a job with our old talented asses. I can't, it's hard for me to imagine, you know, what I would like to see happen, other than it would be very nice to see some of the division in the world mend itself somehow. But I don't see that happening. And
Well,
that
all of us
bothers
can
me.
try as hard as we can to do our own part. So
This is true. This is true. It's like the little boy who saves the starfish. You're absolutely right. So, yeah. Well, happy 2021 to you, my Laura. I love you dearly. I
yes, happy
appreciate
2021 to you. I'm almost done with my beer, so
you got more. You don't fool me, girl.
there's always more. But here is to a wonderful 2021, and hopefully it will be better one way or the other. We'll just make the best of it like we would. That's because we have to.
One day at a time. Doink, 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 clink, clink, clink. Merry Christmas.
Exactly.
Happy last days of Hanukkah. I don't know what else to say to be politically correct, so I'll just wish happiness and health to everybody who's watching. Thank you for your support and encouragement, and we'll see you again in January 2021. Rock on.
We will indeed. Thanks everybody for joining us. We will see you all again soon.
Woohoo!